What's shaking, authortube? My name's Cam and welcome back to another video. Today's going to be a super chill, super relaxed video. In fact, it's going to be so mellow that I might even play some of that like chill background music I used to put in my videos. You know what? Yeah, I think I'll do that. That's mellow. The purpose of today's video is that I just want to have a chat about my writing, where I'm at, what I'm working on, answer a question I get pretty frequently, which I'm flattered by, but always leaves me a bit out of words. I'm just gonna have a chat about my writing in general in regards to works in progress. So first of all, I want to tell you what I'm working on currently, and that is a book that I've talked about in other videos and I've mentioned quite a few times now, but the working title is Descend 7. It's an adult's psychological horror, not so much psychological thriller, more psychological horror, heavily inspired by stories like Stephen King's 1408. In fact, in the current state that it's in, if I was to describe it to anyone, I would say imagine a mashup between 1408 and Silent Hill. The purpose of the story is that it's meant to create this really claustrophobic and intimidating environment like 1408 did with the haunted hotel room, but also take it the step further and add in quite a lot of gore and action and intensely suspenseful moments where you think the character might actually die right now, through the use of monstrous and demonic creatures, hence Silent Hill. The atmosphere or mood for the story in general is that it's meant to be very kind of ambiently abstract. It's not meant to feel like the real world. It's meant to put you on edge by how obscure everything feels. It's still meant to make sense. It's not nonsensical horror, but it is meant to be a bit abstract. Again, kind of like the alternate dimension in Silent Hill. Anyway, what's the story about? Well, the story is about a middle-aged man named... Well, actually, I'm still not positive on the name, so I'll just leave that out. Let's just say a middle-aged man who is basically at rock bottom in his life. He used to be on top, he used to be quite wealthy, he had the picture-perfect family, everything looked perfect. From the outside looking in, he had the perfect life. But the story begins with him being in rock bottom, and basically through the events in the story, you get glimpses into how that life fell apart. And you'll very quickly learn that it's because of things that he did, and he himself is not a very good person. What I wanted to do with this story was present you with a character who is abhorrent in most ways, just a truly despicable piece of shit kind of guy, but I want to see if I can make you empathize with him and make you reach a point where you're like, alright, that's enough punishment. I want to see if I can take a character that you would normally hate if you found them in any other book and make you root for them or make them want to live towards the end. So this character has reached rock bottom. He's working a pretty dead-end job as a limousine driver. He lives in an apartment in a high-rise building, and the city that he lives in is about to be hit by an enormous storm. Basically everyone's stocking up, everyone's trying to grab food so they can be shut in for probably at least a week is what the news stories are saying. But our main character, like everything else in his life at the moment, he just doesn't seem to give too much of a shit about it. And before we know it, he's trapped in his apartment building with little resources to get him through the storm, and he only has his neighbors to rely on. But almost immediately he realizes that the storm isn't just a storm. Things aren't what they seem. Something really dark, something really insidious has swept through, and it has a lot to do with what he has done in his past. That's the general gist of the story. Basically, it takes you through some flashbacks in his life, through the story, and it's meant to all culminate in the one event that really turned everything to shit. And that's something, you may guess what it is early on in the story, but it's something that'll only be confirmed at the very end. So that's what I'm writing. As for how the writing itself is going, I definitely haven't been working as hard on this one as I should have, well, I should be. It feels like I do a lot of writing, but in reality I'm not really, and I do a lot of procrastinating, and I can't quite put my finger on why, but that's something I have to work through myself. I'm confident that this story is a good story, and I'm pretty confident that I can finish it and have it be possibly the best thing I've written so far. That's what I plan on doing, but for now it's just going a bit slower than I would have liked. You know, it's funny, I have this folder on my computer of like, anytime I get a story idea, I go into this folder and I create another folder and I basically name it whatever the working title is. I open the folder and then I make a little notes document and I type in whatever that idea is. No matter how shit it is, I want to just keep a record of it just in case. And I've got like 10 stories there, and maybe like 4 of them that I've never even spoken about on this channel before I think are really good. Especially after I finish this standalone psychological horror, there's a particular pretty lengthy fantasy story I want to write, and not just urban fantasy like my other series, but actual full-fledged world-building fantasy. And I'm really excited about that one because I think I have some really fresh approaches to the fantasy genre in general. That's not something I want to talk about just yet because it is kind of a distant future situation there, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be the very next thing I start working on after I finish Descent 7 or whatever Descent 7 ends up being called. With that in mind, a lot of people might have the question, which is a question I've been asked a lot in the past and the question I was referencing when I started this video, when are we getting the next Architects of the Gifted book? And this is kind of why I wanted to make this video just chatting in general in the first place, because I'm kind of in a really hard place with the Architects of the Gifted series, a bit of a crossroads, if you will. Now, don't get me wrong, I think what I've written so far is not terrible. I think it's pretty good. But the fact remains, I rushed those 2 books, and I've been stuck for quite a long time in a place where I'm like, do I want to finish something that I know I didn't do as well as I could have? Do I want to stop the series altogether and have a half-finished series? Obviously not. Do I want to get rid of those first 2 books and just try to erase them from the internet altogether? Again, not something I really want to do because I am proud of those books. The thing is, I wrote them so long ago and I rushed them, I did rush them, that there are so many flaws that I can't stop stressing about. It's almost a constant point of stress for me. I've actually done a video, you might remember, I would recommend watching it if you haven't. It's called Facing My Writing Mistakes, and basically I go through all of the issues I have with my Architects of the Gifted series, and I'm pretty brutally honest in that, and that has a lot to do with what I'm talking about right now. Basically, I just have a little bit of fear that anytime anyone watches my writing tips videos or my booktube videos or anything like that, they're going to be like, oh, this guy has books, I might go check them out. And then they go read them, and they're not as good as they could have been, and then they're going to assume that anything else I write from now on is going to be bad. It kind of scares the shit out of me, and it makes me feel a bit pressured to hurry up and finish the psychological horror I'm working on so I can at least say that the newest thing I've written is a lot better. The writing is a lot better. I've learned so much about writing in the time between the last book I finished and the one I'm working on now. Again, I don't think those books are terrible, and I really do plan on finishing the Architects of the Gifted series. I even intend on doing a bit of a spin-off series at some point, but I'm kind of struggling with it at the moment, that's all. The funny thing is, I've written half to 3/4 of the 3rd book. I'm having a hard time finishing it because I know that once I put that out, and once I finish the Architects of the Gifted series, people are going to want to read it. And to read the newer books that I finished in the series, they're going to have to read the older ones, and the older ones just aren't as good as I would have liked them to have been. That's all. I think it's just one of those things as a writer, you just have to learn to live with. I think you just have to learn to live with the fact that your writing only improves over time, and there's always going to be writing that isn't as good as the writing you're doing now. I would just hope if anyone does read the books I have out now and they don't like them, hopefully I can somehow give them enough faith to trust that my writing has gotten better. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I honestly have no idea whatsoever when I'm going to finally finish the 3rd book in the series, let alone the 4th, because it's a 4-book series. They're all planned out. I know everything that's going to happen in either of those books. I'm just trying to make sure I close up loopholes. I'm trying to make sure I avoid a lot of the cliches I've done in videos, cliches I've talked about in my writing cliches to avoid videos. A lot of the advice I've given is contrary to what I've actually done in my books. I'm trying to make sure I really avoid those before going forward, and that's hard to do when you're writing a series that already has books out, you know? Anyway, I'm not getting rid of them. I am going to finish it. I just wanted to give you my piece on why it's taking so long to finish that series. I want to do some other stuff before I finish that and finish that series well, because that series really is my baby. I'm confident that the story I have in the Architects of the Gifted is awesome. I just want to make sure I do it justice. That's all I have to say. That's just my writing update. Hopefully the next writing update I give you is that I've finished the first draft on Descent 7. Fingers crossed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Catch ya.
What are you doing?
I'm writing, like you'll be, when you start punching those keys. Is there a problem?
No, I'm just thinking.
No. No thinking. That comes later.